dear, oh dear. Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Ankle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today, I'm talking about the new album from Depeche Mode. Spirit. Oh boy, Depeche Mode. One of the biggest names in all of synth-pop. Quite possibly the godfather of synth-pop. I was simultaneously looking forward to and dreading this one. I never really looked into them in depth until, fairly recently. Before that, all I really knew was a very small handful of singles, mainly thanks to covers other people did. Like, I discovered Personal Jesus thanks to a remix/cover by Thematic.
Reach out and touch me.
I knew Enjoy the Silence thanks to Hybrid's cover.
Words like violence break the silence.
And I think I might have heard Just Can't Get Enough once or twice from some 80s compilation my dad owned, but I'm not 100% sure. I did very much like all those songs that I mentioned though. I've been trying to get through their discography for a while now, mainly for educational purposes, like what electronic music reviewer wouldn't be caught dead without knowing Depeche Mode, right? I don't know what to tell you guys. I've never really had a personal connection to any 80s synth-pop bands, save for maybe Kraftwerk. I don't think they count, they were mostly from the 70s. There are lots of random 80s singles I listened to as a kid. Really the only one with super strong nostalgia though is probably Cars by Gary Newman. It's kind of difficult to put into words why this genre never interested me more. There's just so much of it out there, and the genre, for me, personally, gets kind of samey. It's the kind of thing I gotta be in the right mood for. But, regardless, I made myself listen to the entire Depeche Mode back catalog since I felt like I really needed to stop living under a rock. I actually tried doing this a couple of times a while back. Like, after my review of Vince Clarke and Paul Hartnell's Two Square, and admitting I'd not actually heard that much Vince Clarke. By the way, I'm gonna be playing this same cramming when Erasure's next album comes out in May, but I digress. I'd started looking into Depeche Mode's discography all the way back in August. Got bored after A Broken Frame, got sidetracked. Tried again a bit more recently, got sidetracked after Some Great Reward. Then suddenly, I just noticed, oh crap, their album's gonna be out, in 2 days. So I just crammed in the rest of their discography as fast as I could over the next couple of days. And yeah, so you're gonna have to excuse me for this here. This is another one of those outsider perspective reviews. I'm mainly doing this for my own education. I needed at least one synth-pop legend under my belt, and I'm gonna get another in May, but whatever. Here goes nothing. Time for my thoughts on their discography so far. Seems a bit more lighthearted and silly than the usual from them, thanks to the presence of Vince Clarke. Not to mention highly derivative of Kraftwerk. I actually did not like this one at all on first listen, save for Just Can't Get Enough, mainly because of the Kraftwerk derivativeness, but I will admit it has grown on me a fair bit since then. Kinda similar sonically to Speak and Spell, but significantly darker, a little more interesting. No real bad tracks, to be honest, but not the most memorable. I think this is the point at which they actually really started to sound like Depeche Mode. Getting a little more political too. Also really solid. I really like every single track on here. One of my favorites from these guys for sure, go check it out. This one's alright. I like the singles, People Are People and Blasphemous Rumors, but I'm sorry, the track Master and Servant. That track is very annoying, and its placement right after the track Somebody is especially jarring and brought down the entire album experience for me. It's not bad, but I can't personally consider it one of their better ones. This one's pretty solid though. My version added 3 bonus tracks that I did not really care for. Felt out of place and nearly killed the experience, but the actual main bulk of the album is thumbs up there. And this one is distinctively creepy. There were a couple of less engaging moments. I didn't really care for Little 15 all that much, but the rest on here, for the most part, this album is really solid. It starts out great, it ends really strongly too. Good stuff. This one already had the advantage of my having known 2 songs already before even starting, so just because of that, this was one of my favorites. But this one didn't disappoint either. Solid all the way through. I like how their synth tones have kind of started to take after the rave era a little bit, which was just starting to break out at the time. And as a side note, first of all, The original version of Personal Jesus is probably better than Thematic's remix of it, mainly because they're so wildly different. But Hybrid's version of Enjoy the Silence I think I enjoy more than the original. Even though I will have to give the original credit, that creepy ending is pretty awesome. And then suddenly, guitars. I did not expect to like this one given how it was taking more influences from the surrounding grunge movement and becoming less electronic, but to be honest, I still very much like this one. I mean, like, the production is just absolutely fantastic on this one, spot on. This album marks the departure of Alan Wilder and also came not long after lead singer Dave Gahan overdosed and almost died. Also the point at which opinions on the band start to become pretty polarized. It is a very slow-moving album, but I quite like its atmosphere, very dark and futuristic as per usual. It is interesting that such a subtle and laid-back album had one of the most infamously loud EDM festivals named after it, but yeah, whatever. This is another more laid-back one, pretty similar to Ultra, but I like this one a little better. And there's one reason for that. The producer, the late Mark Bell of LFO fame, I think he adds a little tinge of weirdness to this album that I can definitely appreciate. Thumbs up on this one. This one's kinda like Songs of Faith and Devotion again. I think this one's significantly rougher and more industrial sounding. A lot of audio distortion, but yeah, it's still pretty good. Pretty good. Also, pretty enjoyable. I can't think of anything I didn't like about it, but I'm probably not gonna remember this either. The track Wrong, though, is almost meme-worthy. Wrong! Basically same deal as the previous one. Enjoyable, not most memorable, though I definitely like this one a little more. And finally, that brings us to here. Reminder that a lot of these I only heard for the first time in the past few days. I was kinda tuning out near the end, but by the same token, there really wasn't much of anything from these guys that I didn't like. Maybe their stuff will grow on me more with repeat listens, I don't know. But what matters most in this video is their latest album here, Spirit. Much like basically everything they put out after Songs of Faith and Devotion, the reviews on this one are pretty polarized. Some people love it, and some people hate it. I guess it's up to this guy who's not a longtime fan in basically any way to give this album its fair judgment. So, how does it fare? Christ, this album is a downer. Hell, this is probably the biggest downer of an album Depeche Mode have released in their entire career. And that should really be saying something. This is coming from a band who's been dealing in darkness and depressing themes ever since their second album, and yes, I fully believe in terms of sheer depressingness, this one tops everything they've ever done. It's possibly this is due to being the one that I've looked into the most depth, but no, I think even with that into consideration, I'm standing by what this said. Like, holy shit. Much like their last couple of albums, I can't think of anything technically wrong with this one either. Dave Gahan's voice still sounds just like it always has. The production is super dark and industrial. I think any problems people might have with this album are directly related to the artistic direction they went here. If you're one of those people who doesn't like anything they released post-Violator, you won't like this one either. Big surprise. I think the only track you might conceivably like is So Much Love. Well, that one had quite a bit of guitars and distortion. There's at least a pretty strong groove and has somewhat more of a positive message, I guess. My mom and dad have told me the song Where's the Revolution has been getting a little bit of radio play lately. And quite frankly, even on first listen, I was like, I have to question all radio programmers. Who the hell wants to hear this on the radio? Like, maybe if they're in the mood for some, like, moody political type music, but is something to wake you up on your way to work in the morning? Absolutely fucking not. Granted, given pop music these days has made a significant turn towards the depressing these days, I guess it could fit alongside songs like Scars to Your Beautiful by Alessia Cara, but yeah, by the way, yes, political. I've heard people warning me this album was going to be political, and actually, that kind of excited me at first, because I thought that meant this album was going to be more like Construction Time again, which is, as I said, one of my favorite Depeche Mode albums, but to be honest, the main reason I like that album as much as I do is not the lyrics, but just that they nailed every single hook. and made every song really catchy. The subject matter was just a neat bonus for me. I've said this before, but I personally typically don't care about the message or lyrics in music, just in general. I probably wouldn't have even looked into it had people not told me it actually kind of mattered this time. Though the music does make it abundantly clear the message is what's most important. And the message of this album seems to be the entire world is fucked, and it's your fault. Yes, you, the audience. You didn't stand up to do something, so now you're going to pay the price. Songs like Where's the Revolution, The Worst Crime, and Fail really drive this point home. The Worst Crime in particular is about having sent yourself to the gallows, and musically sounds like it too. Real comforting stuff here. But I'm not the lyrics guy. I don't want my comment section to be filled with politics, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I thought though, maybe this album will be a little less of a downer if I don't have the lyrics right in front of me, even though that totally goes against the message of what they were going for. Well, yes, it is more enjoyable in that way, but not by a lot. Tracks like The Worst Crime are still ridiculously dour. A lot of these songs are pretty stripped back and trying to call attention to the lyrics. Like, they care about this message. And on top of that, I've seen people say that Depeche Mode were turning into, like a blues band ever since Ultra. I didn't see it all that much before, but I definitely see it now. Track Poison Heart was a jackhammer to the head in that respect. I mean, that song is at least not political, but it's extremely bluesy. It's as straightforward a blues song as they've ever made. Though, I actually personally really enjoyed this track. Since it is still Depeche Mode, it is like a very strange sounding blues song. And I can enjoy it purely from an instrumental standpoint. But there are a bit too many songs on here that are like so extremely soul-crushingly depressing that even musically, that I ended up skipping them a lot of the time. Cover Me and Eternal are two other big examples I didn't already mention. They were like really sad and dark. And other songs like Scum are really rough and industrial and like really Dave Gunn is giving you the finger. Or, well, he's giving big corporations the finger, but same difference. But there are songs on here that are like instrumentally enjoyable. I already mentioned So Much Love. That one's at least got the common courtesy to be danceable, even if the melodies and instrumentation are dour. Though this is at least what Depeche Mode is about. Like, dark sounding dance songs. I really like this track, So Much Love. That's a good one. I also like the track Poorman, which really gave me some Construction Time Again vibes, like calling back to songs like Pipeline, but still having some accessible synth tones and grooves. In the first half of the album, I really like the opener, Going Backwards, which is significantly less abrasive than the rest of the album, kind of more like an Ultra Exciter type track. That one's more laid back, that's a good one. And You Move, that's another one that's more industrial, but again, is at least semi-danceable. It's really intense, and the eerie synth strings actually weirdly remind me of something Air could have done on like 10,000 Hertz Legend. So I can say pretty confidently, I like those songs. I suppose the big single, Where's the Revolution, is decent too, but honestly, if you want to inspire people to start a revolution, you could give them a little more energy. Right now, it's just more like pissed off yelling at them or something. I mean, I'm not gonna say I directly disagree with them, but just, yeah. Okay, I guess there's really no beating around the bush at this point. I've been completely burnt out on politics for a long time now. I've gotten extremely sick of politics and people screaming at each other, and I've just been trying to distance myself from it this whole time. And as such, I get little to no personal enjoyment out of this album. I mean, it's not their fault. I do definitely get where these sentiments are coming from. I understand what they're trying to say. The album makes sense in today's context. I just did not need this right now, and I can really only see myself coming back to the 5 tracks I marked as favorites in the description. I can definitely appreciate what they were trying to do. Their mission was clearly to slam a brick of reality onto your head, and I will not deny it worked, I'm just not in the mood for a brick of reality slammed over my head right now, and likely won't be for quite a long time. If you think you'll be in the mood for something gritty, something industrial, something extremely bleak and depressing, then by all means check this out. But for me personally, I'm a wuss. I want something a little less blunt and depressing. The 5 favorite songs, I think, are actually really good, and I can definitely see myself coming back to those, but the rest, maybe in some better times. Maybe if I'm in the mood for something dark and industrial, but not now. As an excuse for me to finally sit down with the rest of the Depeche Mode catalog, I'm certainly glad it exists, but the album itself, it's well made, but I really don't think it was made for me. I'm overall feeling a 6.7 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave comments in the comment thing down there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.